There we go. Welcome everybody to the 2024 Running Start information session. My name is Dan Alderson. I'm one of the associate principals at Lake Stevens High School. I want to take very little time tonight because we have some folks on the screen to tell us some awesome important things about our Running Start options for the year. I'm going to hand it over to Miss Lewis, who will then let our rest of our panelists go ahead and introduce themselves, and we'll go ahead and start that way. We will have a Q&A at the end if you want to locate that button on your screen that looks a little bit like the chat, but it's got two chat bubbles on it. It's called the Q&A. If you need to have a sticky note or something to write down your questions with, and you can put those Q&A in at any point during the webinar, and we'll go ahead and respond to them near the end. All right, Lewis, it's all yours.
Good afternoon, I guess good evening, everybody. I'm Stephanie Lewis, one of the counselors here at Lake Stevens High School, and I am the Running Start liaison. So I'm going to be telling you guys all the important things you need to know about Running Start today. I'm going to take a quick minute and just let my guests that I have here with me introduce themselves. Özge, would you like to start?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Özge, and I am the Running Start Program Specialist at Everett Community College.
Awesome. Thank you. And Artie?
Hi, Stephanie and Dan. Thanks for having us tonight. My name is Artie Quevin, and I'm the Executive Director of the Ocean Research College Academy at Everett Community College.
Awesome. And Isaac?
Hi, I'm Isaac. I'm a Running Start student and also a student with the ORCA program.
Great. Thank you guys so much for being here to help me out today. So I'm just going to go ahead and dive right in. We are going to cover a lot of information. This is a brief overview of the stuff that I'm going to talk to you guys about today. We're going to talk about who's eligible for Running Start, the application process. You're going to get a perspective from some of my colleagues here from EVCC, and we're going to do a Q&A at the end. So who's eligible for Running Start? I actually get this question asked of me a lot. Basically, it's any juniors and seniors. Sort of the benchmark is that you have to have earned at least 12 credits to be eligible to participate in the Running Start program, which you typically take 2 years to complete. There is some placement requirements with regards to specific classes, especially around English and math. A current 2.5 cumulative GPA will place you automatically into English 101. That's an important one. Math placement can also be determined by your transcript if you've successfully completed Algebra 2 or higher. If you haven't done that yet, and EVCC might ask you for some more information in order to place you in the proper math class, another way you can do that is to provide your grades from your current math class that you're in, a screenshot from your teacher, something like that. You can also sign up to take what's called the AccuPlacer exam through EVCC, and the cost to do that's $33.70. So you might be saying like, okay, how in the world do I get started on becoming a Running Start student? It seems really overwhelming and complicated. EVCC actually does a great job of providing us with all the tools that we need to help get set up to apply for Running Start. So a brand new Running Start student would go to EVCC's website and their Running Start section. And by the way, folks, I have anything that's blue in here is a link that I've linked in. After this webinar is over, we're going to post this webinar along with the slide deck for it on the LSHS website. These links will be available for you to click on when you're in the slideshow. So this link will actually take you to EVCC's how to apply to EVCC Running Start. They have also created a slideshow with directions to walk through their process. So you will go on their website, you'll apply. Now, if you are someone who has a CTC link account, because say you've done college in the high school, you actually don't need to apply as a brand new student. You simply need to click on this EVCC dual credit update form. It will take you right to a Google form that you fill out. You've already done the apply to EVCC portion, so EVCC just needs to get some information from you to update your account to reflect that you're going to be a Running Start student now and help get you rolling down that process. This is one of the hardest steps for most of my students. Once you have applied for Running Start, especially as a new student, or you've sent in that update form, you got to pause and wait a minute for EVCC to update your application. It takes them 7 to 10 business days. This time of year, they are swamped. Everybody is applying, so have a little patience, hang in there. you will get an email that says, congratulations, you've been accepted, along with information on what to do next.
Miss Lewis, I'm sorry, are you sharing your screen?
I thought I was. Let's try again here. You see it now? Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry, folks. So yeah, let me back up just one slide. Okay. Okay, so how to get started. This is the link I was referring to. And this is the link to the dual credit update form right here. As you see, EVCC dual credit update form. So these links are embedded in there for you. Next step, you're going to receive an acceptance email from EVCC. You really can't move forward until you get this email. This email has important information with regards to, because there's steps you're going to need to do with Lake Stevens High School, and there's steps you're going to need to do with EVCC. And you're going to have to wait to get that email. Let EVCC get your application in the right process, in the right stage before you move forward, or you're just going to cog up the wheel and slow things down. So you get this email, you're like, cool, what do I do next? It outlines some things for you. You need to do like an entry advising appointment. You'll get a CTC student ID number. It's also going to have you complete that placement form we talked about to get you into English and math. And they're going to ask that you provide a copy of your Lake Stevens School District transcript. So I have linked in here the Lake Stevens School District transcript request page. We have recently updated this process as well. If you're a family that's had a student that's done this before. So it's now an easy peasy Google form that you fill out. You let us know your name and your ID number, where you want your transcript sent, whether that's to your email address or directly to EVCC. I think for this one, you'll want to send it to you so you can attach it to that placement form and send to EVCC. If you have not completed Algebra 2 yet, I would also provide, if you have a copy of your current report card with your Algebra 2 grade, or a screenshot of your current Algebra 2 grade, so they can see how you're doing in that class so far. EVCC does have a mandatory online student orientation, so you can sign up for that. This link also takes you to their webpage for that. And then one of the last steps is that you're going to have to send your counselor an email and set up a meeting with them. And there's a couple of things we're going to have you do. So if you're my student, you send me an email and say, hi, Miss Lewis, I'm accepted at EVCC. I'm ready for my counselor meeting. And I'm going to say, great, congratulations on getting in. And I'm going to attach a couple of things to an email for you. One is called the Running Start Student Agreement. This is a pretty big packet that I'm going to have you take home and read through with a caregiver and yourself. And there's going to be several lines that I need you and that caregiver to initial, indicating that you understand the rules and procedures for being a Running Start student. The second thing I'm going to do is attach what's called an RSEVF, or a Running Start Enrollment Verification Form. I'm going to have you print that out and fill out just the top portion only. We're going to look at a picture of this later. And I'm going to have you bring both that student agreement and the RSEVF to a meeting with me. And I'm going to also invite your caregiver to come to that meeting and answer any questions that they might have as well. You will also be required, once you get that in, to set up an entry advising appointment with EVCC. That's kind of like the college version of me. So I'm going to help make sure your student does everything they need to do to meet their high school graduation requirements. And at your entry and your advising appointments with your EVCC advisor, they're going to make sure if you're working towards an AA degree or just anything sort of college degree related, they're going to help you be set up for that. And so once I have signed, this is a big one, step 6. Once your counselor has signed the Running Start RSEVF, enrollment verification form, excuse me, the student actually has to be the ones to turn this into EVCC. You can do that in person, or you can attach it to an email and email it to runningstart@everettcc.edu, which is what most students do these days. So if you are unsure who your counselor is to complete this step, this is just a brief snapshot. I'll just pause on the slide for 1 minute. You can look up your names. What's wonderful is we are not changing alphas or counselors or anything this year, so everything's staying the same. Pretty easy peasy. This is that Running Start student agreement that I mentioned. So this is a couple of pages long. We do update it every year. This highlights things that you need to know as a Running Start student, and it's pretty in-depth. Things like, parking passes, are not guaranteed just because you're a Running Start student. The rules still apply to you. Courses that are, a 0-900 level or lower are actually not a part of the Running Start program and are not covered by Running Start. You would have to pay tuition for those classes on your own. So do please read through this packet carefully. I've attached a blank page at the end for parents and students to write any notes of any questions they have. Feel free to make notes, highlight, and just bring all your questions in when you come to that meeting with your counselor. We cannot sign your RSEVF for you to move forward with the next step if you do not bring this completed packet with you to your initial Running Start meeting. This is just a snapshot of what the RSEVF looks like, the enrollment verification form. So I've highlighted up here in orange when I say I want you to fill out the top portion. It's that portion that I want you to fill out with. You're actually gonna, as a Running Start student, you will complete this form every single quarter before you sign up for classes. This lets EVCC know how many classes you are eligible or how many credits you're eligible for the Running Start program to pay for you. It also lets EVCC know that you're meeting with your high school counselor, you're remaining on track for your high school graduation, and you know what you're doing. So this is a really important form that students will need to get really familiar with. But it's this top portion that your student will fill out. I'll help fill out the rest. Student and parent signs at the bottom, and then the student submits this form to EVCC once that meeting is done. All right, so this is a snapshot of our Running Start course equivalency chart. This is how students know, okay, what classes am I taking at EVCC that's going to meet my high school graduation requirements? So if I need to take an English credit, okay, any English course over 100 level, boom, that works. That meets that requirement. So we have every single, the only thing I will draw your attention to is the CTE one. You'll notice there's a link embedded in there. There is so many approved CTE classes that we can't fit it all in this little chart. So you got to click the link to open it to get to the other classes. The last thing that I want to bring your attention to are these orange and yellow boxes, because this is the one, in my opinion, downside to doing Running Start. Washington State, we have very specific history requirements that students must take and cover in order to receive their high school diploma. So for the orange ones, any sophomores to be juniors, as a junior at high school, you would take US history. You must choose 2 of these courses, 146, 147, or 148, in order to meet your full 1.0 US history requirement. That's a little confusing because typically 5 credits at EVCC equals 1 credit at Lake Stevens High School. However, the curriculum inside the history classes don't cover enough for you to meet that specific requirement. So what we'll do is when you take, say, History 146, you'll only get awarded a 0.5 history credit and a 0.5 elective credit. And so then when you take the second one, you'll finish your remaining history credit and you'll get an extra elective credit. So you're not getting shortchanged credits, but we are going to direct that you have to take 2 history classes each year instead of just the 1. That one is a little bit funky. The other thing to point out is, as a rule, you'll notice my little chart down here. This tells you how many credits at the college are worth. So a 2 credit class is worth 0.4 credits. A 3 credit class is worth 0.6. 4 credits is worth 0.8, and 5 credits is worth a 1.0. You'll see circled in red here. That's with the exception of PE. Any 0.4 PE classes, we will round up to a 0.5 PE credit at the high school. Okay, application dates and deadlines are listed here for each quarter. So most of you all are looking at applying for fall of next year. So the application deadline is May 1st, and those classes are going to start in mid-September. I do just kind of want to draw your attention to, it is possible that you can apply for winter quarter or spring quarter, but it's really rare and really, we don't advise it. And that's because our semesters do not line up with EVCC's quarters. Students take 2 semesters here at the high school, while there's 3 quarters that they do at the college, and our start and stop times are not at the same time. So it's really almost impossible for students to jump back and forth from one to the other. So we really want students and families to view Running Start as a one-year commitment when you get into it, and know that this is what you're going to be doing for the year. Graduation requirements. So obviously it's really important to still make sure, even though you're going to college, you're taking college classes, you're sitting in a classroom with other college students, it's important to make sure you're still meeting your high school graduation requirements. You have to graduate high school first and foremost. So students, in order to graduate high school, need 24 credits. This is just a brief breakdown of what that looks like: your English, your math, your science, all of these. We do have this checklist posted on our planning guide if that's helpful for you. You can kind of go through and mark off the classes you've taken so far, and that's a good way to kind of check in with yourself and see, okay, what classes do I still need for graduation? All right, and then one of the things that I get asked a lot is, what is the difference between full-time Running Start and part-time Running Start? So a full-time Running Start student basically takes all of their classes at the college and no classes at the high school. So they're never worried about a semester schedule. They're really just following EVCC schedule and taking classes through the college. A full-time student at Lake Stevens High School typically earns about 6 credits a year, versus a full-time student at Running Start can actually easily earn up to 9 credits a year. That's average. Running Start has gotten really generous, and they've actually upped the number of credits they will pay for. So that could be as high as 12, although we really recommend 3 classes as full-time. Let's start with just 3. Please be having a conversation with your counselor individually if you plan on taking more than 3 classes in any given quarter, especially as you're starting out. Now, a part-time Running Start student could take classes at both the high school and the college. That's sort of what makes you part-time. One of the main reasons I see students doing this is they might still need that Algebra 2 class, which you can't really take. You can take it at the college, but you'd have to pay for the tuition. And it moves a lot faster, and Algebra 2 is a really challenging class. So we really encourage students to take Algebra 2 with us here at the high school. So I have a lot of students that take Algebra 2 first period, and then the rest of their day, they're opened up to take classes at the college. So as you can see, the number of classes you take at the high school impacts the number of credits that Running Start will pay for you to take at the college. So as you see, the more classes you go down the list and add at the high school, the less number of credits you're eligible to take at the college. Speak with your individual counselor about what's going to be best for you. But as a rule, we typically see students mostly doing one or the other, not really trying to do 50-50, again, because the semesters and the quarters don't line up. And so every time you register for classes at EVCC, you have to make sure they never interfere with your Lake Stevens High School classes. Once your Lake Stevens High School classes kick off in the fall, that's it. They are set in stone. We will not be moving around your Lake Stevens High School classes to accommodate a class at EVCC. So that's really something to kind of keep in mind. So here's just an example of a junior who's doing full-time Running Start. So as I mentioned, 3 classes is considered full-time. That's a heavy caseload. That's going to get you 9 credits by the end of the school year. So you might do your English, a history, and math in the fall. And then in the winter, you do your Spanish and your other history class. And then maybe you decide to do a science class. And then in the spring, you start to see, you know, oh, now I can take Spanish and film and graphic design. So you get to have a lot more options in your classes, and they change more regularly. You know, if you are someone who really doesn't like English, it's your hardest subject, well, you only have to sit in that class for a couple of months. You do got to give it a little bit more time and attention because you're only juggling 3 classes, but then it's done and over with. So I find that the constantly changing schedule is something that my students really view as a plus. Also a note, most EVCC students are not typically Monday through Friday. They're typically like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or a Tuesday, Thursday schedule. So your class schedule could look different, different days of the week. Here's just an example of a part-time schedule. So this student's taking Algebra 2 here at the high school, and they decided, oh, you know what, I really like the chemistry teacher here. I've been wanting to be in their class all year, so I'm going to do chemistry at the high school this year. And then they're just taking their other requirements at the college. And again, typically part-time Running Start students do their classes at the high school in the morning to free up the rest of their day for EVCC, but you can work with your individual counselor to see what's going to be the best fit for your student and your family. So new last year was the addition of the availability to do Running Start during the summer, which is an incredible opportunity and is really cool. There are typically 2 ways that students can access Running Start over the summer. So most students could be eligible for up to 10 credits. So that could be rising juniors, the class of 2026, rising seniors, the class of 2025, and even some current seniors, the class of 2024. This is all based on your average annual FTE, or the amount of time that you're spent in class. You don't have to stress too much about that, because it's my job and EVCC's job to know those numbers and those rules. And so we're going to take a look at that and figure that out, and we can let you know what you are eligible for. But basically the reason why rising juniors are eligible for it is because it's based on the school year this year, and it's basically like you get to use your leftovers from the school year to take over the summer, but you rising juniors weren't eligible for EVCC during the school year. And so that's why you're eligible for these 10 credits this summer, if that's something you wanted to do. Graduating seniors can also be eligible for some Running Start funds if they are within 15 credits of their AA degree. So if you're someone who gets to the end of your senior year and you're really close to finishing up that AA degree and you really wanted to do that, and you're within 15 credits, there's a separate form that we can fill out to qualify you to complete that during summer quarter and still finish with your AA degree through Running Start. Again, this is only the second year that there has been funds available for summer. And so we are kind of finalizing some things, and EVCC is still finalizing some things on their end, but they do expect to have their summer Running Start webpage updated in early March. Okay, so one really important thing that I cannot emphasize enough to my Running Start students, especially my full-timers, is how important communication is, to stay in communication with Lake Stevens High School. One of the bummer parts about our system, our Lake Stevens system, trying to be really secure and protect our students and protect our staff and make sure everybody functions on the internet in a safe and secure way, is that unfortunately students cannot sign up for EVCC and receive communications from EVCC with their Lake Stevens High School email account. They do have to use their personal email account. And so often what I see happen is students are communicating more regularly on their personal account because that's how they email their professors at the college and whatnot. However, I don't have your students' personal information. We are automatically going to be directed to use your Lake Stevens email account. So it's a really good habit to have students be checking their Lake Stevens email account at least once a week, looking for, highlighting the scan for information from a counselor, blasts from Miss Ibelia, anything like that. It's also important that they still check back in on Skyward once grades get posted, as well as I also have a Running Start Google Classroom where I will send out just sort of like email blasts and alerts, reminders when there's a bell schedule change, reminder that it's getting to be a new quarter and it's time to start setting up your RSEVF appointment with your counselor. So lots of good communication happens through there. All right, and now I'm gonna take a break and drink a little bit of water and allow my colleague Ozge to share a little bit with you about the EVCC perspective.
Yes, thank you. So just a couple of things to keep in mind while you're trying to decide if you are ready for Running Start or not. One thing to keep in mind is as soon as you enter the college system, as a Running Start student or any dual credit programs, you are considered a college student, and the policies and laws will apply to your account. And the grades and credits you earn are permanent, and they will appear on both your high school transcript and college transcript. So it is important to keep in mind so that you are choosing classes and keeping the GPA at least at 2.0 to keep that satisfactory academic progress to succeed in the program. And I want to talk about FERPA. This is more for for the parents I might have in the audience. So FERPA is the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. This is a federal law that protects student account, which means as soon as the student enters the college system, unfortunately, this law prevents us from sharing any student information with anyone but the student. So we do have a release of information form available. So if your student wants to give you permission to communicate with us and take care of their academic transactions, that is an option. We need to have that form on file. But what we ask from the students is to be transparent with their parent or whoever is supporting them in their academics. So if the parent comes to EVCC asking for the student's grade, their attendance, or if they owe any money, we cannot share that information. So it is really important for students to be communicating that kind of information with their caregiver. And because you will be in a college environment, there is a higher expectation of responsibility and time management and advocating for yourself. So just keep that in mind. Be comfortable asking for help when needed. There are a lot of support and systems and resources available to you at the college. So just keep that in mind and reach out for help whenever you need it. And one thing I think is important to bring up is that there's sometimes a misunderstanding around Running Start that it is a free program. It is tuition free. So what that means is tuition for college level classes, and those are classes that are 100 and above level. So tuition is covered for college level classes, but each class will have fees attached to them, and those fees are charged per the credit for each student. So Running Start does not cover for those fees. So you should expect to pay for fees out of pocket. And as an example, for a 15 credit class, for example, the fees can be anything between $45 to $150. So that's something to keep in mind. And with that being said, we do have a Running Start fee waiver available for eligible students. And what this fee waiver does is it covers those mandatory student and class fees for college level classes. So if you're eligible, there's a form, the fee waiver request form, you need to submit with the required documentation. And the eligibility criteria is we have different ways to approve you for the fee waiver. The most common one is through the free and reduced price lunch approval. So if you are eligible for free and reduced price lunch in the last 5 years, you are eligible to apply for the fee waiver. Or if your family income is less than 200% of the federal poverty level, or if you are receiving any state or federal assistance, or if you're in current foster youth or McKinney-Vento status, you are eligible for the Running Start fee waiver. We just need that documentation from you by the deadline. And when you're approved, the fees are covered automatically when we apply that to your account. And again, it is going to be a college environment, and EVCC is an open enrollment institution. Another thing to keep in mind is your classmates will be from various backgrounds. So you might have a classmate as young as 16 and as old as 65. So that's something to keep in mind if you're ready for that kind of environment, because it's a big shift going from high school where your classmates are around the same age group. So that's something to keep in mind. The class schedules and calendars and deadlines will not align with your high school ones. So you're managing two different schedules basically. So that's where that time management skills comes in. The breaks may not align. So while your friends at the high school, while they might be on winter break, for example, you will still be taking classes at the college. So those are some things to consider. And we have a lot of information on our website. We have frequently asked questions and different resources. And if you have any specific questions, you can always email us too. So those are some of the things to keep in mind while you're deciding if Running Start is right for you or not.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate you bringing up that Running Start is tuition free and not free. That's a really good point. So thank you, Ozge, for pointing that out for us and for that overview. All right. If I can come along, little slideshow. Ooh, too far. Oh, one more. There we go. All right, Artie, would you love to share with us something about ORCA?
Of course I would, Stephanie, and thank you so much for hosting this evening. And the commonality that I'm hearing is student personal responsibility and what are you ready to seek out? And Running Start is such a perfect hybrid for you to access higher education while you're still in the comforts of your own home. So you still have perhaps a supportive environment, living at home, maybe getting some meals and laundry taken care of while you get to test your academic opportunities at the college. And Everett Community College was actually one of the pioneering colleges over 30 years ago to start the Running Start or dual credit program to give students in comprehensive high schools more choice. We offer 3,000 different classes. And I don't even know how many different programs. And one of the programs that you can access is the Ocean Research College Academy. And so this program started 20 years ago, targeting the Running Start population to enable them to meet their high school graduation requirements. And as Stephanie showed you, there are some really specific criteria that you have to take. And so what ORCA did is took all those core requirements from all the local Snohomish County area high schools and blended them in with the Associate of Arts and Sciences degree, what is called the DTA or the Direct Transfer Agreement at Everett Community College. And so all those courses are mapped out. And we do that through this really intensive way of study that focuses on the local environment. Predominantly my passion, the ocean, and the ocean right out in front of us. And Stephanie, have you been on board with us? Did you come last fall? Yes.
I did. Yeah, we got to go out on a cruise on a beautiful Friday afternoon in the fall, and we saw whales and seals and all kinds of birds, and it was far and away the coolest thing I've ever done while being at work.
Well, I so appreciate you sharing that. And Isaac is going to tell you a little bit about what he saw on Friday when we were out. And while obviously I hijacked the name of charismatic megafauna of ORCA, it's really about studying something deeply and understanding how systems work. And what we have found in our 20-year history is students can do anything if they have looked at something deeply, they've applied a critical analysis, they've applied their math, they've written about it, and they've reflected on it. And then they have a mechanism to tell the story to their next receiving institution. And so doing something that is local, relevant, and applied, like I think the number one thing that I hear about students in mathematics, for example, is when am I going to use this? Being able to apply your statistical understanding to the data set that you are collecting in oceanography and writing about it and doing research and telling the story about what you learned is just central to what we do. And so that workload that I haven't heard anyone really talk about is In a college class, you spend half the time in the classroom, but a lot more time preparing outside the classroom. And so if I were to describe your typical math class where the first 10 minutes of your class, you're reviewing homework from the previous night and asking questions about it, and then you move on to new material, and then you spend the last 10 minutes of class practicing that new material. It doesn't happen in college because remember, as Stephanie highlighted, you're getting a whole year of credit in a 10-week quarter. And so that means you're spending a lot of time outside of class preparing. You're seeing the instructor perhaps during their office hours. You're not spending time at the beginning of class reviewing that material. And you really have to be a self-advocate, because we've heard from OSGE that your parents don't get to have access to your record. And so the information has to go through the student. So the student has to ask, the student has to reflect on how they're doing in the class, and then they activate their network. Your high school counselor is a phenomenal resource for you. Your instructors in a college class are really, really important. And then the whole Running Start office is going to help you every single quarter. And they're managing 1,400 students, and it's amazing what they'll do to help the individual student get what they need. And there's very clear outlines, steps, guides, etc., that you have to do every single quarter. That is your ticket to ride. And so what I hope that Isaac will highlight a little bit is I really want you to think about ORCA. Here's the primary benefit. ORCA students are going to get their Associate of Arts and Sciences degree, whereas the typical Running Start population, because of the part-time or full-time nature and because of the meshing of our schedule to get the associate's degree, our students in typical Running Start, about 13 to 15% get that DTA. And what that means for a student who is maybe STEM interested, when they go to university, they don't have to take any more classes that are history, communications, writing. They fulfilled it with us. Those are called your general university requirements. Conversely, maybe a student isn't interested in STEM, and if you come to ORCA, you get to do some really cool STEM work. One of my favorite stories, as Stephanie just highlighted, is if you take Ocean 101 at the University of Washington, it could be a lecture hall of 200 people. If you take Ocean 101 at ORCA, you did the research, you collected the data, you were out on the water, and it's a pretty stark comparison. And if you have an interest in something, a social science, humanities, you wouldn't have to take any more science when you got to your receiving institution. So it's a benefit for both interests. And it's also okay to not know what you're going to pursue when you get to university. And this is just a really successful way to launch into building your study habits and doing learning very, very deeply. So I hope to tantalize you to come to one of our info sessions. We have 2 remaining info sessions, one this Thursday on Leap Day. And we are located, if any of you guys know, a perfect place to locate a school focused on the ocean that overlooks the marina and yet has a distillery underneath us and a brewery at the other end. We are on the top floor above Scuttlebutts and Blue Water Distilling. And we'll host an info session this Thursday at 6 p.m. and we'll be in the Blue Heron room, and then we'll radiate out to the ORCA space. And then we'll do one more on April 18th before our May 1 deadline. So I hope that you can join us. I'll be around for questions, as will Isaac, and just so appreciate Stephanie and Dan for hosting this night for us tonight.
Thank you so much, Artie. And I really appreciate you highlighting that point about the change in the course load work expected from a student in a college class versus in a high school class. And I just want to make sure that everybody watching today or perhaps watching later knows that that is true for all EVCC classes, whether you are participating in the ORCA program or not. There is you are taking college classes, and college level rigor require students to take on more ownership of their learning and be able, you're going to have to do a lot more reading outside of class, a lot more studying outside of class. In a way, it's great. You've got flexibility, you know, your professor's not dictating what hours of the day you're doing all your learning, but you can't put it off. It's not less learning. You just have to carve time into your day to make sure you still are prioritizing school. So while you may not be sitting in a classroom for 6 hours, 5 days a week, you actually might be dedicating more time overall throughout the week to your school in general. So just something to keep in mind. It's definitely not less work. A couple of other big points that we're going to highlight, just sort of some general benefits and some things to consider. Most of these we've talked about at least a little bit. The benefits are that you could potentially earn an associate's degree, excuse me, and a high school diploma before graduating, or all at the same time. You can save money on college tuition, even if you don't get a full associate's degree. One thing we didn't really talk too much about, but it's important to know, is that transferring these are college classes. You are going to EVCC and you are taking college classes. You will get a college transcript from EVCC. Now, will all of those credits always transfer over perfectly to every single college for your university you might go to afterwards? Maybe not. The general rule of thumb is, if it's within Washington State, excuse me, if it's within Washington State and it's a state school, pretty high likelihood that most of those credits are going to transfer. Within Washington State, but maybe a private college, most of those will probably transfer, but some might not. It gets to be a little more iffy. Once you start getting out of state, especially out of state private colleges, they may or they may not transfer. So you may not be saving as much money on the front of tuition. You do get to have a much more flexible schedule, like we talked about. You're not sitting in class 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. Excuse me, I'm sorry. There's that adult atmosphere, that more adult social life we talked about, and you have more independence. Another big added benefit is being able to earn that full 9 credits, maybe more, a year at EVCC is huge. If you're somebody that transferred from, a different state, maybe you spent your first year or two at a completely different college, or maybe even internationally, and now you're behind on credits just because of that change. This is a great way to make some of those up. Some important things to consider is that you have to maintain a 2.0 GPA. If you don't maintain that GPA, you can get put on academic probation, and you can eventually be told that you are being required to come back to your high school because you're not proving to be successful at the college. So as Ozge mentioned, there are mandatory class and student fees. It's not a completely free program. Transportation and scheduling constraints, that's a real thing, especially for part-time Running Start students. So if you're thinking that you're someone that wants to be part-time, you really, you can dive down into that deeper. That's a great conversation between you and your counselor when you're having that first Running Start meeting, going over that parent-student agreement and signing that first RSEVF. And then also just keeping in mind, like, the FERPA responsibility, and that if you were at the high school, you'd only be earning 6 credits. All right, so we are moving on to our question and answer period. But before we do, I wanted to give our student panelist, Isaac, a chance to just share a couple of minutes for you, what his perspective is, what it's like for him to be a Running Start student, what he likes about it. And I'll also ask him just to touch briefly on what he likes about the ORCA program. And then Isaac will also stay around to answer questions as well. So Isaac, go ahead and yeah, share with us what you think any new Running Start student should know.
Most Running Start students should know is kind of, you guys touched on this a bit, is that a lot of the work you will be having to do outside of school. What's great is what would be, for if you're becoming a Running Start student, I'd recommend getting a planner, so that way you know what exactly what to do on those specific days, so that way you can keep track of what is due, what is not due. And with most teachers who are also part of the at Running Start, most professors, they will often have the schedule posted up for the entire quarter, so that way you know what exactly is going to go on each day. However, you do also got to consider is snow days. So for here, like for instance, today we had a 2-hour late start, but at ORCA and at EVCC, there were no late starts. So there's a difference in like when classes are canceled and when they're not. So you have to make that decision of, am I going to miss this class, or do I want to drive? However, you also have a lot more freedom of what you're able to do. You don't have, if you don't go to class, it's your decision to make, and you will have to make that up. But there is nobody holding you accountable except for yourself, which can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. And then touching more on the ORCA program, the ORCA program gives you more of like a structured environment similar to high school, but not exactly, where it is still your responsibility to keep up with the classes. However, you have teachers who are with you all the time and will get to know you really well. And you are only in a classroom with 20 people, and you're with that class of 20 people for an entire quarter for 10 weeks straight, and then they'll mix it up. So you get to really know everyone within the ORCA program, because there are only 60 students per grade, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And so you kind of build that community too. So ORCA is great because you can build a community, and your teachers will get to know you and know what you are like and understand you.
Awesome, Isaac. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking time out of your evening to be here with us and to share your experience. And thanks for sticking around to answer questions. Mr. Alderson, I think we're ready to move into the Q&A. I do see that a few people have already sent in some questions. One you're ready to respond to?
Yeah, can you stop sharing for just a second, Lewis? So folks, in my attempt to be helpful in sending out a helpful reminder this afternoon, somehow the link in the helpful reminder just sent you to S'more and attempted to have you create an account. That's on me. I have no idea how it happened, but that's on me. So a couple of the questions in: how do we get the first few minutes of this recording or of this webinar? We'll be taking the recording, putting it up on YouTube, and then posting that video to the high school website here in probably tomorrow. So you can look for it there to capture the first couple of minutes of our webinar. So that's the first one. And so who would like to grab the question from Jaden, who asks, if a kid wants to go to med school, does Running Start help?
Artie would. Is that okay? And okay, so this is a double or triple answer. So anytime you're doing rigorous, challenging coursework, and I want my medical doctor to have done rigorous, challenging coursework, is going to be a great opportunity. Your prerequisites for med school are really, really important. So you get to take what I call the PCBs, the biology, the physics, the chemistry, and the biology. And because you still need a bachelor's degree in order to get into med school, and there's a whole suite of opportunities of how to get to med school based on where you live, what state has priority, the courses that you've taken, the experiences that you've had. So that's a long roundabout. Gee, if there were a program that had a really strong STEM emphasis, that would be a great opportunity to engage in. We've had many doctors graduate through the ORCA program. Traditional Running Start, they'll want you to make sure, like at ORCA, you get a smattering of your biology and your chemistry. They're going to want to make sure you have university level science coursework as a comparator, because the grades that you get are going to be evaluated, and the course content that you take, you're going to take the MCAT. And so a long roundabout answer is yes, it's beneficial. Realize that you will finish your sequences at your receiving university.
Awesome, thank you. Jaden's also asking, Running Start college credits for outside state education is really 0. Lewis, you wanted to grab that one?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and field that. Sorry if no, that it's not 0 necessarily. However, it could be. The unfortunate answer for transferring credits is that it depends. That is the only answer to really give you. It is going to vary college to college, state to state, private school to public school. There's not going to be one answer that any of us can give you that's going to be the same for every single college. So I will say it seems to be more likely that when you stay within state, they tend to accept in-state credits a little bit easier. That just tends to go a little bit smoother. And then I would also say that big major, in like state universities like Western Washington University, UW, the University of Arizona, any of those big state schools, they also tend to transfer credits a little bit easier. But again, the only way to know for sure, unfortunately, is to call any school that you might be applying to, get to know their rules. But yeah, there's no guarantee. So it's not zero. That's not the answer. But it's not guaranteed that every credit will transfer either. It just really depends, unfortunately.
Awesome, thank you. And Ms. Lewis, you were also going to answer Aubrey's question. Where can we find the student agreement form?
Yes. So the student agreement form, as a rule, we will post that online. So this whole webinar, along with the slide deck, is going to be posted, both of those, two separate items, on the planning guide under the Running Start tab. And then once you're in the slideshow, that parent-student agreement is linked in that slideshow. However, you will also get that when your student emails your counselor to be like, I'm all signed up for Running Start. I'm ready to get going on my meeting with you. We are going to attach that to the email to them for them to print out at that time. So it'll be available in a couple of different places.
Perfect. And Claire has a question about if this works differently for someone who is homeschooling only part-time at the high school. Lewis, you want to, or Ozge, you unmute it. Go for it.
Yeah, I can just jump in to clarify the application process for homeschooled and private school students. So they are still eligible for the program, but Running Start, one of the requirements for the program is that students must be either registered in a public high school in the state of Washington or a public school district. So if the student is a homeschool student, they must be enrolled in the school district, and then they will either be assigned to a counselor at their local high school or someone at the school district. So if the student is part-time taking classes already at the high school, I think that's what the question was saying, you would be meeting with the assigned person or your counselor to determine your eligibility, and then that prior to application, basically, students must be enrolled with the Washington Public School District.
Awesome, thank you. Jessica has a question about summer semester, and they weren't able to find the registration anywhere yet.
Yeah, I can answer that one too. So summer registration has not started yet. The application will open on March 11th for summer and fall. They open at the same time. We are currently accepting spring quarter applications, which is the upcoming quarter. So it is a bit too soon to apply for summer Running Start. And we will update our summer Running Start webpage on EVCC's website, and you will see more dates and forms and the processes more clearly. So the registration has not opened yet for summer.
Thank you, Ozge. Sarah wants to know, for students who get their AA degree, can they transfer their credits, assuming the school they're going to next usually takes Running Start credit, even though they technically have a degree? Ms. Lewis?
Artie, I see you unmuted yourself. Do you want to go ahead and take it? Go for it.
Well, sure. Let's see if we're harmonious. So any student starting the fall following their senior year still applies to university as an incoming freshman. If they have the full associate's degree, as soon as they set foot on that campus, the next quarter, they are then considered a junior, and that gives them priority registration for many, many opportunities. And there's benefits for being an incoming freshman, from a scholarship, for housing, etc. But those state schools that Stephanie mentioned are all going to take those credits. And then by your second quarter at that institution, you're a junior. Is that what you were going to say, Stephanie?
There we go. That is what I was going to say. Yes, definitely. Yes, that is one way to almost certainly guarantee that you get those credits transferred, that you get some credit for your credits, is to complete the AA degree. Yeah, that's for sure the best way to do that.
Okay. Crystal wants to know the address and location for the info session on the 29th. Artie, I think she's asking about ORCA.
Yeah, that's great. So we are located at the Waterfront Center at the Port of Everett, and the address is 1205 Craftsman Way. And there's a massive construction project going on. So if you just Google Scuttlebutts and it'll take you to parking and then come right upstairs. And that's where we will be at 6 o'clock.
Perfect. Ashishri wants to know if they can take online classes and in-person classes wherever they like, or is it trimester depending? For example, can I go online for a day and do in-person for another day?
From my understanding, you can sign up for both. They have online classes you can sign up for, and they have in-person you can sign up for. But you're signing up for one or the other. It's not whatever suits my fancy that particular day. You are committing to either signing up for an online class, and not all classes that they offer in person are offered online. I would say most of their classes are offered in person, and then some of those classes they might also offer some online versions. Either of my two EVCC counterparts can certainly correct me if I'm wrong. But I certainly can comment that no, it's not just like one day I want to go online and one day I want to go in person.
Yeah, if I can just add a real quick thing, we also have hybrid classes. So it is a combination of in-person and online. So, but they still have set schedules. They will still have, we are going to meet in person at this day. So it is not like you get to choose, oh, I just want to attend online today. So you will still have some type of structure.
Awesome. Thank you for that update. And then Bill just wants to give us a heads up that George Washington University in DC took almost all of the Running Starts credits for their student, saved their family $100K plus. Thanks for that heads up, Bill. Zayden then wants to know, is the Running Start program for Lake Stevens only available for those wanting to attend EVCC, or can they attend other community colleges in Washington, such as Green River or Big Bend? Lewis, you want to grab that one?
Yeah, so students can access other community colleges. EVCC is the main one we have students access because you have to be able to get there typically. So I'm not as familiar with Green River or Big Bend, but it would be really, I know I've had a student do like Mukilteo. I've had one or two students do Lake Washington Tech. But other than that, I don't typically see much other answers besides EVCC. So while it is possible, I would definitely say that's a more in-depth conversation you need to be having with your individual counselor about why you want to do that, to really suss out if that's going to be the best option for you or not. But technically, yes, it's possible to do other colleges.
Awesome. And folks, we have several other questions in the Q&A, and we have just about 3-ish minutes left before Miss Lewis and I have another thing tonight, sophomore orientation. Courtney wants to know, does Running Start affect school sports part-time versus full-time? Lewis?
So it affects part-time versus full-time isn't really the issue. Well, I guess it both can be. So yes, it affects it as far as grades. So you still have to maintain your grades that impact your academic eligibility. So you got to keep your grades up, and keep in mind, each class at EVCC is worth a full 1.0. So those classes have a big impact on your GPA. It's like taking, a full year class and so it's like taking 2 grades onto that. So that is something to keep in mind. Students are also required you have to maintain full-time status as an overall student. So part of being a Running Start student means you'll have to bring a form to your counselor to basically fill out that you're still WIAA eligible. And it basically asks, how many classes are you taking at the high school? How many classes are you taking at the college? And just making sure you're still taking at least the same number of credits as a full-time Lake Stevens high school student. So it does impact it. But it's certainly not a barrier as long as you're keeping your grades up and listening to your counselor about how many classes you should be taking.
Awesome. Thank you. We're going to get an announcement here just in a second.
Good evening. Again, we are getting ready to start at this
That's
time.
our clue that Miss Lewis and I need to head to the gymnasium. We have several questions still in the queue. I'm going to go ahead and throw our
if you could close up with the people in the cafeteria
this
for the
up.
class and club fair and our resources from Snohomish County. thanking them on your way for being here a little bit extra tonight.
So
We
if
greatly
you have
appreciate
questions
it.
that aren't being
We look
answered
forward
right
to
at this
seeing all of
minute,
you at this time,
your
moving towards the
counselor would be
main
able to go
gymnasium.
ahead and
If you're
answer your
unsure where the main
questions.
entrance to the gym is,
Again, this will
please head
be,
at the front of our building
it's
down
really
towards the swimming
awesome.
pool. On the left will be, on the east side, our main gym entrance.
This
So again,
whole
all of our
webinar is being
students and
recorded. It will
families
be
here tonight
posted
look
to
forward
our
to seeing you
website
shortly in the
tomorrow.
main gymnasium.
Lewis,
We'll
we got to
start at
work through
6:40
the
prompt,
timing
please.
on this next time. Okay, folks, thank you for being here. I'm going to go ahead and close out the webinar. That means it will go ahead and boot you out. That's not us trying to be disrespectful. It's just how the system works. Thank you again for attending. And Artie, Isaac, Ozge, thank you so much for being with us and participating. We really appreciate it. And thank you, friends. We are going to go ahead and end here.
Thank you. Bye-bye.